It's a time for Pick It From China. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in, because in this video we are going to take a close look at the XY-10, if I'm saying it correctly. This is a device, and yeah, there were some people were requesting me reviewing this here on the channel. So you can just actually see that there are some specifications on the back box, and this is just like some, I think this is just a basic box they keep reusing. So to begin with, this thing has some support for, let's say, 8-bit, 60-bit, handhelds, MAME, and even PlayStation 1, but you don't need to take this all seriously, because sometimes when you're looking at the specs, this thing doesn't really do what it actually says that it is supposed to be doing. So what do I mean? It's very simple. So these devices are very low budget, or some of them are quite expensive. With Powkiddy and Anbernic releasing all kinds of different handhelds, and we also have different new brands coming out, yeah, these devices are sometimes completely pointless to buy. But or is this something you should maybe pick up? That's what we're going to be finding out. In here we're finding an HDMI cable, a mini USB to HDMI. Then we're having over here, let's see what kind of connection, having a mini USB. Yeah, seriously, they're still using a mini USB. The toilet paper manual, like always, that makes no sense whatsoever, with some basic explanations. But later on we're going to do an overview of the software and of course the crappy headphones, because those things are so horrible you don't really want to use those. But in the end, it's kind of interesting when it comes to this particular model, because it does have some interesting features. And with the features, I mean particularly when it comes to, over here, the HDMI out. So this is something new. I didn't see many times before with this, let's say, X series cheap XY-10 different handhelds. We have a lot of connections. So over here having the one for charging, HDMI, headphone out, an SD card can be implemented, but it also comes with storage, 16 GB if I'm saying it correctly, on and off switch, and an extra USB port. We can use this for actually configuring an extra controller. So if you're going to be combining this with an HDMI, we actually have a game system. The shoulder buttons, they are quite nice. They have a very nice click, do have a lot of resistance. So if you're going to be holding them, they're not like super comfortable to actually use. So when it comes to the ABXY button, let's remove the plastics. They do have like a very nice touch to them. They have a little bit of a wiggly, cheap feel, and have a very long travel. But besides that, like over here we're having the escape, select and start. What is quite surprising is at the left side we're finding the same D-pad with the 4 separate buttons. But when you're just actually going to be using it, it's absolutely horrible, because if you want to play fighting games, this is absolutely a no-go. But what's kind of cool that we're having what I can switch look-alike joystick, even with the implemented click. So, and on top we're going finding the 2 extra buttons, and what I understand of, they are actually mapped to the volume control. And yep, at the back we're finding the crappy camera. They're still implementing it in some of the models. And then we're over here having the mono speaker at the bottom, and at the side we're not finding anything at all. But how about the display itself? It's quite horrible, and I mean particularly when you're looking at it, like here you can see that it's not an IPS panel. The overall quality is not super bad, so if you're going to be putting it in the right angle, I can also even record from it, because I have seen devices that had similar problems. And the menu, oh boy, yeah, let's talk about that. The menu is exactly the same like the previous models, like the X series, only redesigned. It also works slightly faster, where the other ones were very slow and very sluggish. So we can just see the previews. When clicking on it, we will get into the game, but if the file gets corrupted, you have a problem. Pressing escape will give you the extra menu, and here we can change out the sound output if you want to. Screen size can be adjusted, but that option, like, I will show you what I mean with this. So if you're going to be getting into it, all right, there we go. Escape, setting, screen size, didn't even do anything, you know. Let's restart the game. Nope, doesn't do anything. So that's actually what I mean, is like the software is so horrible that it didn't even fix that issue. But that doesn't spoil the fun of the device. Let's go through the other part of the menu, having more games. Over here we're having video. With video we can watch a video. Let's see what they put on there. Okay, so this thing is quite loud, that is one thing to be sure. We're having over here music. We can watch pretty pictures on this non-IPS display. We have the ebook, recording settings, browser has nothing to do with internet, this is just browsing through the system files. Dictionary, the games, here we're finding the built-in games, collection, internal memory. There's only with internal memory only one single game. Built-in games. It's one massive list. Collection. Doesn't say anything. And the recent run list. So it's one absolutely hot mess if you're looking at this part. And that's it. Going into the settings, in here we're having display settings, backlight of the brightness. You can see this thing goes quite bright for a non-IPS panel. Backlight can be adjusted for 1 minute or just per turn it off. Powering off, idle time and sleep time, languages. Let's give you a quick look in this. There are a lot of them, even Dutch. And advanced option with the information. Okay, here it says like LCD version 2. Oh, by the way, this thing doesn't have like 16 gigabyte. I've completely brain fart. This thing had only like around like 5, 6 gigabyte. Format internal memory, would not do that at all. And reset settings. You can also shut down the key function or the bleeping sound. And that's actually what we're going to do. And of course, the shitty camera. Who doesn't want to have a shitty camera in this? Like, it's so horrible. You can see that it is really bad quality. Oh, my finger was before. My finger was at the front of the lens. I don't know what's the point of this picture thing because it doesn't have a touch screen at all. Yeah. Okay, so looking into, let's say, the way how it actually works. It's not super bad, like also when it comes to adjusting the audio itself. The gameplay is nice. The D-pad is absolutely horrible. Whoa, look at the delay. We have this massive dead zone in the joystick. Oh boy, this is really bad. Oh, that's one of the things I also keep messing up, is the overall controls of these things. What is kind of interesting when you're looking at, let's say, the other emulators, now it has been set to the right resolution. And that is simply to do because now this does work with some emulators. So this is one of the hot messes what we're getting, and we did even see some glitches going on. But so far the emulation seems to be working fine. But all the sound effects are here, so that's absolutely great. You can make a quick load, quick save if you want to. So let's say we're going to make a quick save when I was actually dying. Return to the game. Going back to the load state. And that part seems to be not even working at all. So let's try that again, load state. Nope. So also that part has been completely messed up. Moving into the Game Boy Advance. See how that emulates. So far so good, no problem whatsoever. So do you know what the general problem with these things? That sometimes they just completely mess up certain things. So another thing I also wanted to see, what happens if you're going to be doing the quick load, quick save. Was this a general problem? Or is it just like a problem with a certain emulator? Alright, so let's go. Was getting hit, okay. Let's load up. Nope, that was just a general problem when it comes to the Neo Geo emulator. So where I love the idea of this analog stick joystick, it's completely unplayable, so I need to force myself to using the horrible D-pad. Oh boy, I can tell you this is not a great overall experience. Well, let's get into some different games and let's search them through the pile of crap. But let's move on to some Mega Drive. And I must say that I'm quite surprised with the overall quality. All the sound effects are here, no weird shenanigans. And I mean, when you're listening to the soundtracks of, let's say, some Mega Drive, most of the time they completely mess it up when it comes to certain parts. Particularly when it is like the sound effects. You can see when it's grabbing, no delay, and also stereo sound. So I'm very surprised how good it actually runs. And for once, they didn't mess it up. Where it goes wrong most of the time is with Super NES. I have seen it before when it comes to, let's say, the previous models we've reviewed here on the channel. So I'm very curious if this is going to be any better. Let's see if it still has the same issues. The overall performance of the emulation, no, we can just hear that it stutters. So they're still running the crappy old Super NES emulator. You can just hear the audio crackling and everything else, so this is absolutely, completely BS. But let's move on to some Game Boy Classic and the Game Boy Color gaming, and yeah, that seems to be working just great on here. It's okay playable when it comes to the D-pad, or at least this should be a D-pad, but so when you're just trying to play with the analog stick, you can see how bad this thing actually is. So no, this is not the way how you want to experience your Game Boy Classic games with this horrible analog stick. So it's kind of a little bit of a bummer, because normally we're having the slider joystick that I even hate more, but this thing does feel great, but it doesn't respond at all. NES time. At first I wanted to play some adventure game to see how that actually works out because of screen tearing. But I just figured let's get with this particular game. But everything seems to be working just fine, no weird shenanigans when it comes to the audio. So for NES gaming we can just do that fine on this XY-10 model. I do wonder if the save function seems to be working with that one, but let's get into some different games. They always claim to get PlayStation 1 running on this. So I've booted up the image that I'm always using on this, but you can hear that it doesn't work great. Also, the aspect ratio option is completely messed up. Another issue we have seen many times before. So let's go back to the, let's see, screen size. Let's put this on full screen because it doesn't play that great at this point. Oh man, like recording is such a pain, simply because of reflection, but also when it comes to, let's say, the bad display. Let's put it this way, it's more playable than the previous models, but it's still not to the point that you say, hey, I can really enjoy this. So for PlayStation emulation, this thing is absolutely a no-go. Okay, so let's see how this actually works when it comes to the AV out. So I'm just going to be using an adapter. I want to unseal the cable that came with it. Let's see if it automatically switches to the monitor itself. And so far, yep, it's duplicating actually the screen itself. So that is absolutely awesome. Not if the emulation performance is going to be any better, but it's kind of cool that we can actually play. Why do you have this feeling that it actually works better now when it comes to emulation? Okay, so let's get into the game. Let's see how it actually responds in the game itself. No, okay, it's the same craziness. Okay, for that part, okay, that seems to be working. So another thing I wanted to see, so what happens if you're going to be putting up the game, going to be plugging in an extra controller, because they're saying this is a double handle thingy going on. So let's plug it in. Just grab ourselves the Xbox controller. That's the most, like the best, let's say, supported game controller for every device, most of the time at least. So let's start it up. Let's see if we can have a dual player setting going on. No, that doesn't do anything. Okay, so let's go back to the exit. Let's see if we can even navigate through the menu. No, nothing works. So the reason I'm testing it is because the X input, if that doesn't work, it's going to be a huge nightmare to get actually another controller working on this. Some random, maybe fake PlayStation controller. It's absolutely a nightmare. Alright, so let's see in the inside how does it look and can we do any repairs. So this is more of the simple method to open it up for Parkers, and maybe we need to use some prior tools. So when you're looking at the overall emulation, I am quite disappointed, but I'm not surprised because it's the same shenanigans every single time when I'm going to be reviewing these things. Let's shut it down. Alright. And the reason why I'm saying shenanigans, because I've reviewed so many of these devices and always the same story over and over again. Yeah, we needed some prior tools because they did click it together. Alright, so I've clicked and open, and this is actually the situation in the inside. So the camera cannot really be moved because they soldered the ribbon cable on the PCB itself. So maintenance wise, this thing is a nightmare. You need to resolder the battery. There is not a lot of room when you're looking at the other shell over here. And of course the camera. What you can do, maybe remove the camera and use this particular part for having a little bit bigger battery, but the battery will give you, I think it's going to be maybe 4 hours of gaming time, not a lot. These things are most of the time like 3000 plus minus. Yet they did a great job with putting hot glue on the speakers. There's only one speaker enabled for this. Here we're having the cables over the battery, but I always find these things very, let's say, scary when you're looking at how, let's say, how they are connected. You know, you can see this. They're like so close to each other. Why not putting the minus over here and plus there? You know, there's having some room between it. But okay, it can maybe be me. Besides that, yeah, maintenance-wise, this thing, replacing parts, batteries can be replaced, but that's the only thing what you can actually do with it. Okay, in short, this thing is not great at all, because you do pay a lot of money for it, and I think the particular have to do when we're moving on from the AV out function to the HDMI. And when you're actually like looking into this and looking at the competition, you can rather get something else, spend a little bit more money and get overall better performance, but also better overall, let's say, software and more possibilities, because this thing is absolutely a waste of money now. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it would be great to see you in the next video.